Now I want to talk about your audition checklist and developing your own audition checklist and system. Again, to be a professional, you need to have a system and a process. If you're a person who's artsy fartsy and you're just winging it every time, if every time you get an audition, you're doing something different, you're leaving a lot on the table, and chances are you could be improving your auditions. So we're going to talk about this because having an audition checklist, even if it's not a physical checklist, ideally it's physical because that'll force you to go through it. But worst case, if eventually you know it so well in your head. But again, a pilot still uses a physical checklist. A surgeon still uses a physical checklist. They're not doing it mentally. They're actually going through a checklist. Co-pilot saying, check this. Pilot saying, checked it. They're actually doing it every time. So we've put together a sample one. This is not the be all and end all, but I would suggest you guys take this as your jumping off point and then customize it. Everyone you have your own idiosyncrasies, you have your own preferences, you have your own idea of what works for you and things that you need. Our mentor, Tom, always says, know your own nervous system. So you need to know yourself. You need to have self-awareness. If you're someone who's super stressful and super anxious, and you really want to take advantage of every opportunity that you have, then I would suggest be more diligent. Maybe you're adding more steps to this checklist than we have, but know yourself and have some self-awareness and figure out what works for you. So can we call that checklist up, Brandon? So the following checklist is an example of what to do once you receive an audition request. We encourage you to customize your own. We'll see if we can drop the document in the chat. But again, to reiterate, following a repeatable process will ensure that you're fully prepared and professional. It's going to reduce your audition stress and anxiety. When you follow a plan and follow a checklist, you can relax because you just know you're doing everything. You're not missing anything. And that's going to ensure that you make the most out of every opportunity that comes your way. This day and age, like commercials can be 5-6 figures, lead in a series, lead in a feature, 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures. There's massive opportunities, and you're only one opportunity away from your life changing. Okay, we're going to drop the document in the Audition Hero. Ooh, good call. In the Audition Hero group later, which means in order to get access to this, you're going to have to register by going to laughingvikings.com/audition hero, which will register you formally, and that'll give you access to the Facebook private community group, which this document will be in. So let's scroll up here. We've broken up our audition checklist to pre-audition, audition, and post-audition. So we'll go through this real quick. If you have questions throughout, you can drop them in the chat and we'll answer them later. But immediately, literally the first thing I do, and this takes so much stress and anxiety out of it. What I used to do when I got an audition from my agent would be like, oh my God, when am I going to shoot this? Where am I going to shoot this? Who am I going to get to read it? Where's my home setup? Am I going to set up lights at home? Am I going to go to a studio? Am I going to go to someone else's house? When and where am I going to do this? So right away, did you schedule your audition session? Pick a date, pick a time, and who your reader is. There's self-tape studios out there, Actors Audition Club being one of them. You have friends who are actors. Maybe you have a family member. I would strongly suggest you do not use a family member because they are not a television and film professional. I would suggest working only with people who are in the industry if you want to maximize your auditions. You never know what you're going to be leaving on the table if you're working with your Uncle Jim or your spouse. It just doesn't make sense. A doctor wouldn't ask someone who's not a doctor, how do I do this surgery? And every television and film production that you've ever watched on TV that you know and love, they use the professional crew and they use professional actors. They didn't use some random person to run the camera for you. And the editor wasn't just some random guy who watched one YouTube video on how to edit. So right away, though, so let's say you get an audition Thursday afternoon, or let's use today. It's Tuesday. You get one today, and the deadline is Friday. I personally would book my recording on Thursday, sometime Thursday afternoon. I never leave it till the end, and you don't want to wait. But what happens is you set that date, your commitment level and your confidence level is going to go up because you're committed. You're like, okay, now by Thursday at 5, I have to have done all my prep because Thursday at 5 is when I'm recording my audition with Brandon at Laughing Vikings Actors Audition Club at 5 o'clock, and he's my guy. So now I know when it's going to happen. It forces me to do the work so that I'm ready by that point. If you don't commit right away, you can procrastinate. You keep putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. Next thing you know, it's Friday at noon and you only got an hour left, and you're being that actor who's scrambling it in, and you're trying to get it in with 5 minutes to go, and you're freaking out and sending your agent nasty messages because of your own fault, because you didn't get it in time. And just know that you're going to be seen in a better light by getting things in early rather than late. So only in absolute necessary situations should you ever just be making the deadline or being late. Production is really potentially looking at auditions as they're receiving them. And it just makes you look like more professional. The faster you can get it in, the better. So did you schedule your audition session, date, time, and a reader? Did you schedule your rehearsal block time? So if I get one tonight, I'm going to book it. It's due Friday at noon. I book it Thursday at 5. Then in my schedule, I'm going to say I'm going to rehearse tomorrow from 12 till 3, and on Thursday from 3 to 5, the 2 hours before my session. So right away, I know when I'm going to record it, and I know I'm going to rehearse it. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. What's not in your schedule is easy to not get done. So get it in the schedule and actually write it down. Then you know you can rest. Oh, I'm a fucking professional. I got the day booked when I'm going to record it, and I got all my rehearsal periods booked. So I know I'm going to put in the time and effort and energy required to submit a professional audition. Did you research the production? Next thing I knew, so I got it booked. I got my rehearsal time. I'm going to look up who the writer is, who the creator is, who the producers are, who the directors are, also who the casting director is. So I know, if I know them, I know what they cast and what they look for. Maybe I already know them and know their preferences. Research that. They have other work. You want to know what they're working on, what these people have done. You want to know who you're dealing with. Also what type of vibe and what type of tone. So the next thing is, did you watch an episode or some of their previous work? If it's a show that you've never heard of or never been on before and you've never seen it, you got to watch it. You can't just look at a script and then deliver a performance, because you might deliver a performance that is way out of line. I'll give you a great example. See is a world where everyone except for a couple of people cannot see. So if you submitted an audition for C and you are a sighted person reacting with your eyes to everything you see, you're instantly going to be recognized as a person who has no clue what they're auditioning for. If it's here in Canada, there's a show called Murdoch Mysteries. It takes place in the early 1900s. So if there's not a little old timiness, like if you audition wearing like modern sunglasses and a modern shiny futuristic looking wardrobe, you're going to look out of place. So you want to watch the episodes so that you understand the tone of the episode, you understand the world, the vibe. Are people really big, or is everyone very small and muted? Not saying that you have to adhere to all that. I can hear Tom Todoroff saying just because everyone else is small doesn't need to mean that you need to be small. But you need to understand the world that you are auditioning for, and you understand the tone. So don't ignore that. Watch a handful of episodes. Also, you might get asked that at some point, and you don't want to be lying. Jason Momoa actually asked me, "Have you seen some of the episodes?" And I fortunately was able to say, "Yeah, I think it's great. It was amazing. I watched all of season 1. It was great. It's kick ass. Love it. Love the show." And the more you watch, the more you're going to understand it, and the more you're going to be comfortable. You're also going to know maybe you have scenes with the leads, and you know this character, you know how they act and respond, so you might get a better sense of the scene that you're dealing with. Did you write out the script? Here's what we like to do, and this is what we've been taught, is our advice to you. And again, you don't need to follow all this advice. If you have your own system, so be it. We like to write out the script, either handheld or like a handwriting, or retype it. But what I do is we remove all the punctuation, and we remove non-critical stage directions. A lot of actors like to play the punctuation, meaning if there's a comma, they pause. If there's a period, they pause more. If there's a ... they pause even more. And then the non-critical stage directions are like, he sighed, or he raised his eyebrow, or he sat down, or he looked out the window, or he grimaced, or all those things. I don't think you need to adhere those things. You might need to adhere to certain ones if in your next line it's like, hey, what are you doing with that gun? The other character says, hey, what are you doing with that gun? You might need to raise a gun into frame at that point. So there's some things that don't work without the stage directions, but we often cut little things like sitting and standing and sitting and standing. Often they're not necessary. And what that's going to do is, if production and casting is watching actors all day long and everyone is playing punctuation, everyone is raising an eyebrow when it says to raise an eyebrow, everyone is pausing at a comma and pausing more at a period, it becomes very predictable. It becomes very boring. Our acting coach, Tom, always says, act at the speed of life. And people don't talk with punctuation. Things are written with punctuation so that when you read it, it makes sense and it's not just one blurb. But I'm not talking in commas and colons and semicolons and periods right now. I'm just talking off the top of my head and sending my message to you, trying to affect you somehow. So you guys can do the same. So just that's a little tip on how you can potentially stand out a little bit, or how you can personalize it by just taking what's important. What's important? The words that you're saying, the words the other characters are saying, and critical stage directions. And the final thing pre-audition is rehearse. And that old thing is, don't do it until you get it right. Do it until you can't get it wrong. So what does that mean for you? That means 50 times, 100 times, 250 times, 500 times, however many times you need to do it, and do it different. Don't get stuck in the same rhythm where you always pause on this note and you always look this way on this beat. Do it different every time. Do it while you're doing the dishes. Do it while you're going for a run. Do it while you're playing basketball. Sing it. Do it with an accent. Do it really fast. Do it really slow. The main thing, though, is every time you do it, mean it. So never just throw it away. Always have meaning and intention and belief and truth behind it, so that every time it's sinking into you. And banish the word memorize. Your job as an actor is not to memorize lines. Professional actors, they're not professional because they're the best memorizers. They understood what was happening in the scene. They understood what they were fighting for. They understood their relationship with the other character. They understood what they wanted in that scene. And they were good storytellers, and they told the best story by understanding their craft. So banish the word. It's not about memorizing. The problem with memorizing is you memorize. You get stuck in a certain way of doing it. You're not going to be directable. If the casting director says, okay, that was great, can we try it this way? But you've done it only one way the entire time, it'll be very, very clear to them that you're not a professional. You'll look like an amateur who has just memorized lines. And maybe that's how you learned when you were a kid in public school, when it was like, memorize these lines for the school play. But at a professional level, it's more about understanding the scenes, what you're fighting for, what you want, what your objective is. And I would suggest invest in one of these. Thanks again, Tom Todoroff, for this suggestion. This is one of those little clickers that bouncers have outside, or ushers have. And you can keep track. If it's like, I got to do this 100 times, go for a walk with yourself and run the lines. Even if it's a one-liner, say it 100 different ways, 150 times. And in that, rehearsal is your sandbox time. It's your play time. It's your discovery time. And if you just decide early on, if you look at a script and be like, yeah, this is what this is, and you paint it with one brush and you paint it one color, and then you just do that 100 times, you're going to miss all kinds of script exploration, and you're going to miss potentially better, stronger choices. So really play, do it 100 different ways, so that if the director said, do it this way, do it that way, that's no problem. You've done it a million times. Again, it's not just about learning it one way. So if we can scroll forward, is this making sense to everyone? Audition checklist. You might be realizing that this is more work than you thought. If you're new in the business, or maybe if you're old in the business, you might be being like, shit, I've been just memorizing lines and then showing up on the day. I've been winging it. But again, be a professional. On the audition day, did you do a physical and/or vocal warm-up? Acting is your body and it's your voice. Your breath is your connection to your breath, and your voice is your connection to your emotions. You want to be relaxed. Tom always would say to us, tension draws attention as well. So if you're all tense and you're not relaxed, then it's going to be noticeable in you. You're going to be doing funny things that aren't the mark of a relaxed professional actor. So doing a professional physical and vocal warm-up before you perform. There's no actor that's going on stage on Broadway that hasn't done a full vocal warm-up and done a full physical body warm-up. And if you don't know what that means, that's why you need to take classes. You could probably find a video that shows you a full actor vocal warm-up. Maybe we can provide some resources for you, but strongly suggest taking classes to do that. Did you choose your wardrobe? Be specific. So if it is a period piece, that doesn't mean you have to show up in full-blown old-timey clothing, or if you're a knight in Arthur's Round Table, you don't have to show up in a full suit of armor, but you want to have wardrobe that hints to your character. Certainly if you're a CEO or a real estate agent, don't show up in board shorts and a wife beater. Show up in a crisp looking suit so that you look like the guy. You want to look like the person, or at least be hinting towards the person. Again, maybe you don't need to show up in full scrubs if you're a doctor, but you want to look like you could be a doctor. Don't expect production and casting to have such an imagination that you can show up shaggy haired, unshaven for the billionaire CEO role. It's like, you got to look like a billionaire CEO. So be specific with your wardrobe and understand you don't want your wardrobe to outshine you, but remember that your wardrobe, as Tom Todoroff always taught us, your wardrobe and your background and your lighting and your setup speaks before you do. So if they see right away, it's not going to make sense. If they're like, who's this guy in board shorts and a wife beater and he's auditioning for professional CEO guy? Like, this doesn't make sense. Are you hair and makeup camera ready? So are you camera ready? Show up ready for that. Is your hair the way it needs to be for the character? Is there some makeup involved? Usually that's a female thing, although this day and age, lines are all blurred. So whatever that means to you, are you ready to rock? Don't expect that don't look like you're going to roll it like you just rolled out of bed, bags under your eyes and shaggy haircut, unless that's the character description. Look camera ready. Be as close to on the day ready. And they're just going to see you and they're going to see your tape and be like, this is the guy. We could use his audition as the footage for the show. It was that on point. Did you set your mindset and intentions? Again, I go back to sports performance and sports psychology. Do you have a visualization routine, meditation, affirmations? It's game day. We have actors show up here. We know they've done their prep and they come in with that eye of the tiger and the fire in their eyes. And we know they're not fucking around. They're here to book it. They're here to get it. They're here to be an audition professional, and they show up like that. So that's something that you can help yourself on. You be more relaxed. Every high performer, whether it's every top performer, whether it's sports or performance arts, has some pregame routine. So develop your own. Visualizing it like you think of like an Olympic skier in their head before they go, or an Olympic gymnast. They're seeing that whole routine, every move, every turn, every jump, every flip. They know exactly what they're going to do, beat by beat by beat by beat. So you can help yourself out by doing that. That's been proven over and over and over again. Someone who visualizes and meditates and has positive affirmations, they're going to perform better because you've already taught your brain and the neural pathways what to do on the day. Next, do you have a professional studio setup? So if you're doing it at home or if you're doing it in a studio, great. You're probably not going to have to worry about it. If you're doing it at home in your home studio, do you have professional lighting? Meaning, do they see you, or are you in shadows, or are you blowing out because they can't see you at all because there's lights behind you or the light's too bright on you? Do you have a professional looking camera? In TV and film, it's always landscape. It's never portrait, Instagram, selfie style. It's always landscape. Unless they specifically asked, maybe they're shooting something that's like a TikTok gag, so they want it to look like a TikTok video. Then maybe that would be the one exception. Do you have a non-distracting background, either a neutral background, if you're using a virtual background, something that looks the part but doesn't take away from you and isn't distracting? Do you have proper framing? So have you been asked to shoot in a wide frame? Maybe if it's a video game, motion capture, often they'll want to see your entire body or knees up, 3/4. Or do they want it in a medium or a medium close? Pay attention to those instructions. Missing those instructions, if it says it in the casting notice, we want you to shoot in a medium close up, head and shoulders only. And then you're shooting in a wide. They want to see what you're going to look like in your hero close up shot. Tom always says close ups make careers. So make sure that framing is properly. Again, if you're doing it with a proper studio, a professional studio, often like we know that stuff, so we take care of that for you. If you're doing it at home, make sure you're doing that properly. Do you have your different eye lines mapped out? So if a main character, I'm looking directly down the barrel at you right now, which 9 times out of 10 you're not doing in a professional audition. So if I'm having an intense conversation with the main character, I might be here or I might be here. And then if something happens out here, that's the side thing. I might be talking, okay, I'm having a meeting. Yeah, what do you want? I'll be there in a second. That kind of thing. Or where's the window? Or you see a dead body on the ground. The dead body on the ground, not on the ground right here. Or if you're looking at documents in front of you on your desk, I'm not going to look down here so you're seeing the top of my head. I'm going to cheat it a little bit and find an eye line. So, okay, there's the desk. There's the dead body on the ground. So you want to map all this stuff out. You can do this via Zoom. If you're taping via Zoom, it's very simple. And know where your eye lines are. That's going to bring the scene to life. That's going to show the casting directors you know what the scene is all about. And if you're talking to everyone in the same spot, it's not really going to make sense what you're doing or who you're talking to. Let me check here. Yeah. All right. Where were we here? So eye lines, are you seated or standing? Make that decision. Is it going to be best for you to sit? I'm big on making the choice one way or the other. I'm not big on sitting and standing and sitting and standing. You can also fake sitting and standing. If I'm standing here for this audition, I can fake it if I wanted to. You just want to remove a lot of that blocking. Don't overcomplicate it by thinking like, oh, I got to sit, I got to stand. Just make a choice. For most people, often standing is a better energy, and they like to be mobile and grounded and standing. Other people, if it's a courtroom scene or a police interrogation scene, you might want to sit for that. So whatever the best choice is. Focus on your strong beginnings and endings. So your moment before, your button at the very end. People remember the beginnings and the endings. Tom, again, our acting coach often says first impressions and last looks. There's something called the primacy effect and the recency effect. Doesn't matter who you are, every human being, they remember the opening moment and they remember the end, and the middle's kind of the middle. So make sure you nail the opening beat, make sure you nail the end beat. Obviously, ideally, you nail every moment, but I wouldn't submit a tape where I didn't nail the first line and the first beat, or I didn't nail the last line and the last beat. Because the last impression or the first impression is going to be that you were just meh, so. Have you recorded a strong take of each scene? So if it's a 3-scene thing, I would go scene by scene by scene. So I do a bunch of takes of scene 1 till I got the 1, then move on to scene 2, then move on to scene 3. Have you recorded a confident slate? Again, follow the instructions. What do they need to know? Don't miss instructions in a slate. It's an easy reason for them to dismiss your audition if you didn't include a slate or if you didn't do it properly. Not saying that they would do that, but some might. If they're getting thousands of auditions, one of their criteria might be, well, if he doesn't know how to follow slate instructions, he's not going to follow instructions on the day. Maybe he's not even going to show up at the right time on the day. So you want to give them all the confidence in the world to know that this is a professional. When we ask him to do something, he follows instructions like a professional. And then, are the files edited properly? Do they want one file? Do they want separate files? Do they want fades in between? Do they want a front slate or a tail slate? Are the files edited, or are the files named properly? Your name, the role name, the project. Again, they often are very, very clear with these instructions. So follow instruction. Show them right away that you're a professional rather than the guy that kind of doesn't really pay attention and half-asses it. You might think, do they really care? Maybe they don't, but maybe they do. And if they do and you miss it, you might have just missed out on a massive opportunity. And then the final thing here, are your files uploaded and emailed to the proper destination before the deadline? So get those uploaded, emailed to you, your agent, get them up on the casting site. If you're using a studio, like for us, within 15 minutes of a session, we've emailed them to the agent and or casting. So our actors might follow up with their agent, just be like, you received that? Yeah, you received it. Great. Okay. Just so you know, you're going to be heads up. You're going to be getting the file from Laughing Vikings Audition Club. Should be coming your way any minute. So you want to follow up with them. And then post audition. So great. Congratulations. You just submitted your winning audition. Did you confirm? So actually the one that I just mentioned was post audition. Did you confirm that they received it? Is it there? Has it been uploaded? You double check with your agent, double check with your casting, or maybe you go on the casting site and you see it there. Yeah, it's been uploaded. Check, they got it. And then this is huge. And if you miss this, you're leaving money on the table. Did you journal and or reflect on your performance? So you can go through this now that you've recorded it. You know how you felt about it. You know about how you feel about the final product. What did you do well in that audition? What could you improve next time? Did you miss steps? Was there something lacking in your preparation? Could you have done better with your wardrobe? Could you have prepped a little better and learned the scene a little better? All those little things you want to be constantly improving. And if you're not having that debrief moment of journaling and or reflecting, then you're not improving for next time. And you may be just making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And then the final thing, this is the best, celebrate. You did it. Congratulations. Auditions is an opportunity to create something. It's an opportunity for you to perform and play. So you should be proud of those auditions. And something that we like to do is go celebrate. Take yourself out for a drink. Go take yourself shopping. Buy something. Go buy yourself a book. Buy yourself some ice cream. Go visit some friends. Just the idea of dangling a carrot so that you don't just get used to only celebrating wins when you book a role. You want to celebrate every audition, because there's a million reasons why you might not book a role, but that doesn't mean that you didn't do an amazing job on the audition. And it doesn't mean that something positive can't come from the audition. Maybe you didn't book that role, but casting and production loved you. So they're like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to see this person the next time we're casting for something. Or they weren't right for that, but we want to find a spot for them in something else. So there's a million things. You should just celebrate it. Even the fact that you got an audition and you had a chance to submit, there's thousands and thousands of people that would be dying to get an audition. So you need to celebrate that. So that is an example of an audition checklist there. If you have comments, concerns, things that you think you should add on there, I'm going to say Brandon says pizza. Brandon likes to celebrate with pizza. His carrot is a carrot pizza.